Hey travelers, Mag, I, and Inextricable Fate here on day 239 of our trip around the United States. We did it. We made it through the mountains yesterday, and we are all done with the mountains of California for the time being. We only stopped about 20 miles shy of finishing our route last night, just north of Independence, because there is a nice rest area there that we were able to park the car, camp out, and wait for daylight. Now we are ready to begin the last 2 days we have in California, marching our way through Death Valley. Today's route into Death Valley calls for 200 miles. We will have some traditionals at the beginning of the day as we make our way into the park, but once we get into the national park, it is going to be all virtuals and all earth caches for the rest of the day. That's okay though, because we're not really going into Death Valley for the traditionals anyway. We're going there for the sights to see, and this is the right time of year to do it. We're past the freezing cold and we're ahead of the blistering heat. It should be an optimal time to come visit weather-wise and enjoy the park without getting melted down by the sun. There are a lot of interesting geological formations there and a lot of other interesting things to discover in Death Valley. And having been a place that's always been on my bucket list and that I've never visited, I'm excited to see each and every single one of these locations in the time that we have, so I'm not going to wait any further. Let's get these miles started. Let's get out there. Come on, let's go. We begin our day in Independence, the county seat of Inyo County, with a population of about 670 people residing at an elevation of 3,900 feet. We still had some targets left over from our list last night, running between Independence and Lone Pine. Following what was left of our route, we find ourselves at the Manzanar National Historic Site. While this site does provide a great location to get Ai-chan out of the car for her morning walk, it also comes with a heavy history lesson. In 1942, the U.S. government ordered more than 100,000 men, women, and children to leave their homes and were detained in remote military-style camps. Manzanar was one of 10 such camps where the U.S. government incarcerated Japanese immigrants and Japanese American citizens during World War II. The Manzanar Reservoir that we find ourselves walking through was constructed in 1942 to provide water for the 11,000 Japanese Americans interred here at this camp. This reservoir system provided a daily water supply of up to 1.5 million gallons of water through 40,000 feet of pipes until the camp was finally closed in 1945. On the outskirts of Lone Pine, we also stopped in to visit a virtual at a memorial site for an earthquake that happened in 1872. The earthquake had shaken the entire Owens Valley, nearly destroying the town and taking 10% of the population with it. Fortunately, Lone Pine and its nearly 2,000 residents are doing just fine these days. Still up high in the mountains at 3,700 feet, this town was named after a solitary pine tree that had once existed at the mouth of Lone Pine Canyon. As we came into town, the first thing waiting to greet us was a beautiful mural. With hope in our eyes, we pulled up the Adventure Lab app, and sure enough, the Adventure Lab stages focused on several murals spread around town. That was all we really needed to know. We used the Adventure Lab stages to make our way from one mural to the next, getting not only a town history lesson, but also a beautiful view along the way. Lone Pine may have began as just a single cabin in 1862, but by the 1870s, it was an important supply town for several nearby mining communities. The history of Lone Pine was forever altered when a movie production company came to the hills to make the silent film The Roundup. It was not long before many other filming companies discovered the scenic locations as well. This led to over 400 movies, 100 television episodes, and many commercials using Lone Pine and the Alabama Hills as a filming location. Knowing that we were heading off into the land of virtuals and earth caches, we stopped for many geocaches on the stretch between Independence, Manzanar, and Lone Pine. We were excited for the opportunity that each listing afforded us to track down another geocache and add our names to another logbook. Even better, we found that many of these geocaches were historical markers, giving us a chance to read a little bit further into local history while making the finds. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that these micros in a suspicious pile of rocks right next to the historical markers are doing well and good. But if they are, let's leave a good thing alone and keep on caching our way down the road. The good thing about hiking a little bit further away from the car is it usually gives you a chance to find something a little bit larger as well when you get away from the normal paths of muggles. I knew I was in for a treat as soon as I lifted this heavy tin, packed full of swag. So full, in fact, that after I took everything out to have a look at what's inside, it took quite a bit of packing and rearranging to get it all to fit again. With our day running perfectly on schedule with the finds we decided to take on, it was time to move over to the Lone Pine Airport for Skydive Mount Whitney. All right, I have timed out this day just right. We have arrived exactly when I meant to. We actually have a skydiving reservation, and we are here to go to the skydive at Mount Whitney. Are you ready, Inextricable Fate? All right, here we go. The Skydive Mount Whitney operation provides incredible views of the tallest mountains in the continental United States. By going up in an airplane, we have the potential to visit the highest point and the lowest point in the US in the same day. No, I'm just kidding. We're not really going skydiving. That's not happening.
Not today.
Not today. Finally, our journey into Death Valley National Park begins in earnest. This park, the largest in the contiguous United States, straddles the border between California and Nevada. It is bounded in within Death Valley, Panamint Valley, Eureka Valley, and Saline Valley. It is a land of extremes, facing steady droughts and record summer heats. In fact, this is the hottest and driest place within North America. The highest temperature ever recorded in the United States was right here in Furnace Creek within Death Valley at 134 degrees Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius. Some places in the park can expect to see less than 2 inches of rain throughout the entire year. Despite the harsh desert extremes though, this is still home to many species of plants and animals that have adapted to the environment. Bighorn sheep, coyotes, and the endangered Death Valley pupfish call this barren landscape home. Bounded on the west by the Panamint Range and on the east by the Black, Funeral, and Grapevine Mountains, Death Valley stretches for about 140 miles long and is about 15 miles wide at its widest point. That actually makes it larger than the states of Rhode Island and Delaware combined. It seems that no matter which way you turn within Death Valley, there is something new to see as well. This is due in no small part that the national park finds itself in the transition zone between the Mojave Desert, the Great Basin Desert, and the Sonoran Desert. Unlike the more typical locations across the Mojave Desert, the Death Valley habitats possess a diversity of plant and animal species that cannot be found anywhere else in the world. This is due both to the unique geological history of the area and the isolation that many of these species have experienced, all in one of the most uninhabitable places in the world. This is a trip. We had climbed over 7,000 feet yesterday, and we stopped at around 4,000 feet last night. So throughout the day, we have descended 4,000 feet to finally get to sea level. But Death Valley goes lower than that, so down we go. On a failed attempt to get to the one and only geocache in Delorme Page 89, we stopped by the Ubehebe Crater. This explosion pit was created when groundwater came into contact with molten lava, producing enough pressure to explode through the Earth's surface. Dropping into the lowest parts of the parks, you can visit the salt pans. In the rare times that this area does receive rain, the water floods into the low-lying valley areas. The water evaporates over time and the minerals concentrate until only the salt is left behind. Given thousands of years of flooding and evaporation cycles, enough salts have washed into this area to produce layer after layer of salt crust. Following the salted roads, we eventually found our way to Furnace Creek, formerly Greenland Ranch, and the visitor center, museum, and headquarters of Death Valley National Park. The original Greenland Ranch was established in 1883 by the William Tell Coleman Borax Company. Then, this area quickly became the center of the Death Valley mining operations for the Pacific Coast Borax Company and the historic 20 mule teams hauling wagon trains of borax across the Mojave Desert. It was not until 1933 that Greenland Ranch was renamed into Furnace Creek Ranch. Exploring the Borax Museum, you can learn not just about the story of borax in the region, but the history of Death Valley and the development of Furnace Creek. After touring our way through many of the exhibits located in the outdoor portion of the museum, we brought our day to a close at Zabriskie Point. The spectacular views you can find here at the point are some of the most photographed areas in Death Valley National Park. And there are few better places than this anywhere in the park to enjoy the sight of the sun dropping down below the mountain. All right, and that is going to do it for our day spent here in Death Valley. We began our morning in Independence, and from there began to work our way south. As soon as we got into the first area there, we got off into the desert and we found a bunch of geocaches to satisfy our need to stamp some logbooks for today. Because once we crossed into Death Valley National Park, the traditional and physical geocaches went away and it was all virtuals and earth caches from there. We had to get up to page 89 and we knew that the road was closed up there, but we thought we could still hike in. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So I have one page that's in my plan that is not going to be able to be completed. We're going to put a pin in that and kind of see where we are by the time we get back down to this area in June. Beside that, we're pretty much right where we want to be on our target list for the day and our midway point in Death Valley. The thing is, there's a whole lot of nothing out here. So now we have to figure out where we're going to go and bed down for the night. We hope that you guys have enjoyed this look into Death Valley National Park. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trail.